Germany, 1540. A dark room. A corpse lying on the floor of a cafe. That's quite strange. Its limbs were twisted in a terrifying way. The hands and feet were bent and contracted. It looked as if all the bones in the body had broken and then rejoined themselves in a strange way. But even more terrifying was the fact that this corpse kept flipping over on its own again and again. Every time people laid the body straight, it would flip back over, turning its face toward the ground. And this was happening perhaps because something was calling it down to hell, a devil.
The very same devil this dead man had made a deal with when he was alive. The doorbell rings. When this man, named Faust, opens the door, there's a strange, frightening man standing there wearing a black coat. He tells Faust that he can ask for whatever he wants from him. He'll get everything he's ever wanted: wealth, riches, fame, money, knowledge, whatever he needs. And this Faust is none other than the very man who lay dead on the cafe floor.
But Faust wasn't the only one. All over the world, time and again, the names of many famous people have come up. People who, for fame, for money, or for something they always wanted, made a deal with the devil. And this deal with the devil, the outcome of it is always quite terrifying and horrific. Someone's corpse was moving on its own. Someone's house was moving. Someone's body vanished right out of its coffin. Even behind one famous musician, his entire audience apparently saw a dark entity playing music in his place. So today, I'm going to tell you some real cases like these, where people made a deal with the devil for their lives, for their souls, and what happened to these people afterward will make your blood run cold. So brace yourself and get ready, because this is another new episode of Demonology, where we're heading into the world of demons to learn some of the dark secrets of the world of demons and some events that you'll enjoy hearing about. So without wasting any time saying darkness reigns, let's start today's dark and awesome video.
Do you want to make it? 15th century Germany, a man named Johann Georg Faust. Now, this man was a doctor, a philosopher, an astrologer, a magician, and also an alchemist, meaning someone who conducts chemical experiments. But even all of this wasn't enough for Faust. This man used to wander all over Germany, city to city, village to village, showing people his magic tricks. He had made it his life's purpose to impress people, and wherever he went, he would always say one strange thing.
I can perform all the miracles of Jesus Christ all over again.
Now just imagine Europe in the 1500s, where the church was the biggest power. And as soon as the church's people found out that there was a man claiming he could perform all of Jesus Christ's miracles himself, they immediately declared this man a devil.
The church had another reason for doing this too. Rumors about this man were already spreading widely. People, seeing his magic, would say that he must have made some deal with Satan. It was also said that Satan had given him a magical dog and horse, which Faust always kept with him. A dog that could turn into a human at any time. And in that era, many magic books were also sold under Faust's name, and these books contained methods for summoning spirits. Now, whether or not he actually had a connection with Satan, that will become clear later, but he was certainly a mysterious man. Whenever the church would label him a devil and order him out of a city, after being driven out, this Faust would be spotted again in some distant village. And when people went to catch him, he would disappear again. This pattern continued for about 30 years. But suddenly, one day, Faust died in a mysterious way. People said that the time given to him by the devil had run out. The devil had taken his soul. But this was all just what people said. The real story was that Faust's death was even more terrifying than his life, because his death occurred in a hotel room, and the cause was initially reported as an explosion during some experiment. But when people went into the room and saw Faust's body, they screamed in horror, because the condition of the body could not possibly have resulted from an experimental explosion. Faust's body lay on the ground, completely broken, twisted in a strange way, as if someone had turned every bone in his body inside out from within. His face was unrecognizable, as though he had seen something absolutely horrifying at the moment of his death. And as I mentioned at the start, whenever they straightened his body out, it would turn its face back toward the ground on its own. People believed the devil was dragging his soul down toward hell.
But Faust wasn't the only person who sold his soul to the devil for fame or renown. 17th century Netherlands, the Dutch Empire, which at that time was one of the richest empires in the world, and whose greatest wealth was its spices. Spices they obtained from Jakarta, Indonesia. But there was a big problem. Getting from the Netherlands to Indonesia was no easy task. There was no Suez Canal at the time. You had to go all the way around Europe, Africa, and southern Asia. Even on the fastest ship, the journey took about 8 to 12 months.
But even in that era, there was one man who was super fast. He would cover this 8 to 12-month journey in just 3 to 4 months. This man's name was Captain Bernard Fokke. And what I'm telling you isn't just hearsay, it's all documented. In 1678, Fokke completed this voyage in 3 months. Fokke used to carry letters to the governor in Indonesia, and those letters carried dates. And it was based on these dates that it was proven Fokke reached Indonesia in 3 months.
Now you might be thinking, what's the big deal in that? Well, I'm certainly going to tell you that yes, this man, Captain Fokke, had some deal with the devil. That's exactly why the devil would pick him up and get him to Indonesia in 3 months. And you'll believe it too once I tell you just how incredibly fast completing this journey in 3 months actually was. 200 years after that event, when the world's fastest ships were built, even they took 4 months to complete this same journey. Now your mind must be racing, wondering how that man managed to cover such a distance in just 3 months. And this is exactly where the devil angle comes in. According to the people who worked on Fokke's ship, he was extremely cruel. He would hand out very dangerous punishments. He had turned his crewmates' lives into hell. His own men used to say that either this man was the devil himself or he'd made some deal with the devil. That's why he was so cruel, and that's why he had powers that could get these people to Indonesia in 3 months. People used to say that his ship didn't even stay on the water. It flew through the air, meaning it looked like it was on the water, but it actually stayed just slightly above the water's surface. According to sailors, a black dog always stayed on the ship with Fokke, and this black dog was considered to be the devil's form. The deal was this. For 7 consecutive years, Fokke would always get favorable winds on every voyage, meaning he would never encounter a storm, never face any situation that would extend the duration of his journey. And that's exactly what happened. Fokke became so famous because of his speed that a statue of him was erected in the city of Batavia in Indonesia. But the moment the 7 years were complete, something strange happened. Fokke's ship vanished. No wreckage was ever found. Not a single person from the ship was ever seen again, as if the sea had swallowed the ship and its entire crew whole. Because according to legend, when the devil came back after 7 years to collect what was owed to him, Fokke must have refused to hand over his soul, must have tried to pull some trick. Because of this, the devil punished him in such a way that his crew, his ship, all 3 vanished from this world. And after that, his ship became a ghost ship, known to the world as the Flying Dutchman. And historically, many people have claimed to have seen this ghost ship wandering the seas. Now look, these were the stories, the tales, the events where people out of greed made deals with the devil, and paid the price for it too. But think about this. What if a person's soul is sold to the devil even before they're born, meaning a deal before birth? October 27, 1782, the city of Genoa, Italy. A child is born here named Niccolò Paganini, and it's said that this child's connection to the devil was formed even before he was born. It's said that his mother, Teresa, made this happen. She made a deal with the devil and said, "You can take my child's soul after he dies, but while he's alive, make him the greatest, most famous, most magnificent violin player this world has ever seen." The result of this was that at just 5 years old, he had already begun composing music, begun singing, and by the time he reached 11 or 12 years of age, he was already surpassing professional artists at playing the violin. At 13, when he went to learn violin from the famous teacher Alessandro Rolla, Rolla flatly said, "I can't teach this child anything," and sent him to his own teacher instead. But even Rolla's teacher threw up his hands and said, "This child already knows so much. What would we even teach him?" By age 15, Paganini had toured all of Europe alone. Now, you might be thinking,
come on, you're just linking a talented kid's talent to the devil. Well, I didn't do any of this. I haven't linked anyone to anyone. All these stories I'm telling you are already available on the internet. And the real twist in this story, the horror element, is still to come.
Just take a look at Paganini for a moment. Very tall, extremely thin, sunken cheeks, a face so pale it looked ghostly. His lips were so thin that when his mouth was closed, it looked like there were no lips at all. His fingers were so long that they looked like they had no joints in the bones, and he always wore black clothes. When he lifted the violin on stage, his entire body would sway as if he were a puppet, as if someone above was pulling his strings. He could play 12 notes in a single second, and with the fingers of one hand alone, he could cover 3 octaves, something that's simply not possible for a normal human being.
Now look, all of this alone still wasn't enough to link a person to the devil. What I'm about to tell you now was the real incident. During one famous music concert, a man stood up from the audience. He started screaming that he had seen a shadow standing beside Paganini, something helping him play the violin. Besides that, at another show, while Paganini was playing the violin, lightning struck right above his bow. But instead of getting scared like any normal person and stopping the concert, he kept playing the violin as if nothing had happened at all. And that's not possible for an ordinary human being. Along with these devilish tales, there's also a crime story attached to him. People used to say that he had killed a woman and trapped her soul inside his violin, that he had pulled out her intestines and used them to make the strings of his violin. People also used to say that when Paganini played his violin on stage, a woman's screams could be heard coming from inside it. Although all of this sounds a bit more like fantasy, well, what happened happened. Paganini's nature also became quite strange by the end of his life. In 1840, when he was nearing death, a priest from the city of France was called in to say some prayers, but Paganini didn't listen to any prayers. He got up and left before the final prayer was even finished. And to top it all off, the story of his deal with the devil became so famous that no cemetery in Europe was willing to give his body a place to be buried after his death. Finally, after several years, Pope Gregory granted permission, and only then was his body buried in the city of Parma, Italy. But by then, the tag "the Devil's Violinist" had already attached itself to his name.
But these were all old stories. Even in the modern era, there are many artists, many famous and wealthy people about whom it's said that they made a deal with the devil. So I'll tell you about the people from the modern era who made such deals in the next part of this video. So if you want to know their stories, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this part, give the video a like.
And yes, remember this. If tomorrow some devil knocks on your door at night and tells you that you can have whatever you want, close that door right back up. Because my friend, remember, no matter how much wealth you get in this world, if a person loses their soul, none of it means anything. So that's all for today. Let's end the video here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next awesome video.